Hey, what's up guys? Coach Gary Leon here. This is another edition of our special exercise, our supplemental exercise series. So we're just talking about different variations of the squat, the bench press, and the deadlift that are going to help kind of improve your competition lift. Now, whether you are a competitive power lifter or a recreational lifter, adding some variety and adding some special exercises to your training is a great way to help improve weak points and also just get stronger in general. So you kind of fight that adaptive resistance. It allows you to kind of keep making progress and also kind of bring up some weak points and emphasize some different muscle groups and some different ranges of motion. So today we're going to talk about high bar squatting. Now, when we talk about kind of high bar squatting for us, just by raising the bar a little bit higher in the back, it's going to change the mechanics of the lift a little bit. When someone is starting out, I don't like to really mess with the bar position too much. I like to have them get comfortable with like one bar position, but by adjusting where you put the bar on your back, can definitely change the mechanics of the lift. Basically, if I have the bar up on my traps, in order for my weight distribution to be balanced over my midfoot, I'm going to have my knees shift forward more. I'm going to have a more upright posture, with a little bit more forward knee travel. And when you have more forward knee travel, it basically creates a bigger moment arm between the barbell and your knee, so it allows for a little bit more of emphasis on working the legs versus kind of your hips and your lower back. The lower you bring the barbell down, it's going to cause a little bit more of a horizontal back angle, a little bit more of a forward lean. So it's a little bit more of like a balanced squat. Typically the low bar squat is used to kind of express your strength a little bit more. In my opinion, the high bar squat is a better strength builder, and the reason why I think it's a better strength and kind of builder of hypertrophy, it's going to allow for a little bit more longer range of motion, and a little bit more range of motion usually allows for a little bit more time under tension, which allows for more muscle damage and allows for greater hypertrophy. And for many people, not everyone, if your legs are relatively weak compared to your back, which I would say is most people tend to overuse their lower back. So from a longevity standpoint, in a training kind of economy standpoint, like saving your lower back and your hips for kind of like when you need to for like your heavy squats and heavy deadlifts in competition is going to be really important. So in general, if you look at like a lot of the Russian lifters and things like that, they have really strong legs. So by implementing some high bar squats in your training. Now, like I mentioned before, if you're kind of a newer lifter, maybe the bar position you're not going to play with too much, but there's some other factors that you can play with in order to make your normal squat a little bit more of like a high bar style. So I'm going to use myself as an example, and then obviously this I'll kind of talk about some of the differences that you could potentially make. So I am strongest. I've hit my best squats. So my best raw squat is 705 with adult knee sleeves and 750 in knee wraps. I'm strongest with these Reebok power shoes from Mark Bell. These are some of the original ones that we got. Kind of funny story with that. But I was kind of actually at the dinner when they pitched the idea, and I like to think that I had a hand in kind of wooing the executives, but that's a story for another time. But just joking aside, I love these shoes. These are great. So I really like the flat shoes are going to be great for a more wider stance, low bar squatter, in my opinion. These are also great for deadlifting and sumo deadlifting. They have a lot of grip on them. And again, these are great. So these are kind of hard to get, but in general, the flat shoe is going to be a good choice for a low bar squatter, someone with a wider stance, maybe an equipped lifter, maybe a raw with wraps lifter, but just somebody. Now, if you have adequate dorsiflexion, so dorsiflexion is the ability to be able to pull your kind of toe toward your shin. So if you have good ankle range of motion, and maybe you're like more of a medium or wide stance squatter, sumo deadlifter, these are really great shoes. And we could probably do a whole video on shoes, but I wanted to kind of talk about, I'm stronger in these. That's kind of the main point. My best, again, going off all-time PRs in heels, my best squat in heels is like 585 for 5. I'm not saying I can do that right now, but that's my best ever. So I noticed that when my heeled squat went up, my raw squat went up. So just something that really helped me. There was a high transfer of training there. So where I don't really use a ton of variation in my barbell position, I might bring it a little bit higher. By squatting in heels, this can also change the mechanics of the lift. Now there are a lot of lifters that will still low bar in heels, but in general, when you squat in a heel, it's going to make it a little bit more of a quad dominant lift because it's going to pitch you a little bit forward. What this heel does, it gives you a kind of it kind of puts you it gives you some artificial dorsiflexion, so it gives you a little bit more ankle range of motion. Since I'm starting with the heel height, if you can imagine here, I'm starting past the neutral position. So since my heel is elevated, it's going to allow for a little bit more forward travel and basically allow for any angle restrictions that I might have to kind of be eliminated. You can get these like, 3/4 height, 3/4 of an inch height, an inch height. It's not that important, but in general, these heel shoes can be great. So usually in a hypertrophy block of training, off-season block of training, I'll squat almost exclusively in heels. And as I get closer to a contest, I'll switch to my flats. So today, I actually did some working out today. And usually at this point in my training, when I'm getting closer to the meet, I'll do my primary work in my flat shoes. I might do my belt squatting. I might do my high bar squats, my pause squats. I might do in heels. That way I can get a little bit more range of motion. I can squat a little bit deeper. Have a little bit more forward knee travel while still having good contact with my big toe, little toe, and heel on the ground. So it's going to allow me to have a good tripod foot. So big toe, little toe, heel remains in contact with the ground. It allows my knees to shove forward more, allows for a more upright torso, which is going to in turn create a bigger moment arm between my knee and the barbell, which is going to allow for more basically leg strength and leg work to be done. Now, if you don't want to spend a lot of money on heeled shoes, that's totally fine. What you can do in place of that, you can just take a pair of dimes and just simply stand on them. And then obviously this is not going to be as stable or as secure as wearing a heeled shoe, but then I can start to squat down, and as you can see, I can really let my knees travel forward here, and I can stay very upright in the bottom, and then I can get a lot of quad activation here. So that's going to allow my knees to really shift forward like that. So that's another way you can kind of do, kind of a high bar kind of heel squat. So a lot of times in our programs, we might program a high bar in heels or just squat in heels. Now, let's say if you're low bar squat, if you tend to be stronger in heels already, what I would do is you could actually stand on the plates with your heels if you want something a little bit more of an extreme heel height, or you can just bring the bar up a little bit higher in your traps and go a little bit of a closer stance and really try to shove your knees forward just to get a little bit more of a moment arm at your knee to kind of get a little bit more quad activation. So that's kind of what are some of the benefits of high bar squatting. There's some other ways that you can do high bar squats with a pause or slow eccentric. You can adjust the tempo. You can do all the same squat variations that you would low bar or when your normal squat stance, but the biggest difference between squatting in heels with a high bar position is going to be the moment arm and the back angle. So you're going to have a more vertical back angle, a more forward, more angled shin, so a bigger moment arm between the barbell and your knee. So it's going to allow for better leg training and more hypertrophy of the quad specifically. So in a hypertrophy block, so as far as rep ranges and things like that, you can obviously train these very heavy, but if you're using these for hypertrophy, I would recommend kind of doing the 5 to 8, even upwards of 8 to 10 reps as well if you have good enough form. But for most people, it's going to probably be 5 to 8 rep range. And if you are somebody that likes to squat in heels for strength, obviously you could use the 3 to 5 rep range as well. If you're not a power lifter, maybe you're a weightlifter and you want to train these more for strength, then obviously you could do doubles, singles, and triples as well. But in general, the high bar squat is going to be used more for hypertrophy blocks. The reps are going to be a little bit higher. So sets and reps are a little bit higher, probably somewhere in the 3 to 5 sets. 5 to 8 reps is going to be good during a hypertrophy block for most people. So that's why you want to use the high bar squat in your training. It's a great way to build strength and hypertrophy. It's not necessarily the best way to express your strength, but it's a really good way to kind of train your legs. And stronger legs is going to equal a stronger squat and a stronger deadlift. So that's why you want to use the high bar squat in your training, specifically with some sort of elevated heel. So if you guys enjoyed the video, please like it. Please subscribe for future content. Make sure you check out the links below. Until next time, stay strong, and we'll see you soon.